Dr. Sanford, thank you for allowing me to come and visit you today. You look well. I'd like to know how you are, and could you please tell us how old you will be at your next birthday?
Thank you for coming, Paul McIntosh. It's a pleasure for you to have an opportunity to come and talk together. The conversation is between people, irrespective of age differences, is vitally important to the continuity of our history. I'm feeling well for my age. I'll be 94 in November. I have the usual joys of aging, and I also have some of the usual pains of aging because the body and the pain and the agony, I call it genetic agony. I never forget the pain of my people, and I carry it in my heart. But I also have the joy of being able to share the greatness of our people. And that's what keeps me going, keeps me feeling every day is a gift for me to give back some wisdom, some love, some nurturing, some sense of who we are and why we are who we are. So not only am I grateful for your visit, but you provided two other people to be a part of our conversation today. And I think that the technology that makes that possible is wonderful. So I've had three visitors today in the persona of you, Paul.
I feel blessed and fortunate to sit here. And one of the reasons why I wanted to record you is that there are some young people that I work with who are very gracious and smart, but have no sense of who they are, no sense of our culture. And perhaps one of the greatest misfortunes, at least for me personally, is that they don't know who you are. So if you don't mind, in your own words, could you just let those young people that will see this and experience you via this technology, just who you are, where you were born, and whatever you would like to share with them?
I was born in Brooklyn, New York during the Depression. It was very difficult for African American people, even though chattel slavery was over. There was Jim Crow, there was bias, there was hypocrisy, there were broken promises. And I can remember my father, who had been in the war. They called it the World's War. It wasn't the World's, it was the European War. He was in the Navy, gave his health, had shrapnel damages that later caused him to lose his sight. But when he came back from the war, he was not able to get employment. And some of the so-called deterioration of the black family came about when America defined maleness as protection of your family and making a living, at the same time denying those opportunities to men of African ancestry. So I was born during that very difficult time in the history of America. But I grew up in a home where memories were warm because both my grandparents were alive. And I spent many productive hours with them when they talked about their life. They both had been chattel slaves in this country. My grandmother was sold to a family that had a young girl about her age, which was not unusual. And then she was sold to a family in Mississippi. My grandfather was born from the relationship between the plantation owner and an African woman. But it was the man that she gave her heart to, the black man, who taught him how to be a man, how to be protective, how to be a carpenter. It wasn't the white man who was his biological father. Now I say that because we need to know the history of why we are the way we are and the things that we were taught. So I went to school in Brooklyn, never had a black teacher until I was in high school, and she was a home economics teacher. Never was validated, even though I was the valedictorian of the class, but never was validated for who I really was. Never learned anything about Africa except Tarzan. And then I went on to high school and to Brooklyn College, where again I was invisible. And I went on to higher education at Columbia University and at Wellesley College on a scholarship. So I had many years of schooling, but schooling and education are not the same. The education, the cultural grounding and education that became a part of my life, I did not learn in school. I learned from my home, from the community, from the church, and also from organizations like the Association for the Study of Classical African Civilizations, ASCAC, which helped me to understand who we were when we were building pyramids and not living in projects, and also through the Association for the Study of Negro Life and History. That organization still exists, but every year my mother saved up to take us to their breakfast, where I heard the stories of the power and brilliance of our people. So I lived through that era, had an experience at Public School 21, which is too long to tell, but where racism was virulent and vigorous and persistent. But in spite of obstacles, I became the principal of that school and stayed there 20 years. Left there to become the chair of the first international conference on the education of black people, which was held in New York in 1985. And then I had an invitation from Albert Van to consider becoming a regent. Kenneth Clark was the regent, the only black regent on the board, which is more than 120 years old. And I said no. At that time I had accepted a position at Harvard as a visiting practitioner the first time they had an urban person. And they were offering me the position of being the chair of that principal center at Harvard. But I decided I would accept the invitation to go and at least go to Kenneth Clark's retirement party. So I did. And here was this giant of a man, this scholar, this writer, this researcher, who didn't read from the prepared statement that had been given to him, but read a statement that he wrote about himself. He said, "I've been a failure as a regent. The children are not performing as well as when I came. The staff is less integrated every year." He said, "I've been a failure." That touched me deeply because I felt he was a higher ed person and we lost our children before we got them to college in many instances. So I left Harvard and I moved back to New York at the end of the year and became a regent and stayed on the Board of Regents for 20 years. Takes a while. So that's where I ended my career. When I say professional career, that was not a paid position. It still isn't. No staff, no telephone, no driver. It's a voluntary position. Most of the people are wealthy people, or they are sustained by their ethnic group. Italians support the Italian on the board. Certainly now that they're Asians, they're supported. I was not supported by anyone. I made a sacrifice with my husband's agreement to do it, and I left after 20 years. Fortunately, the person who replaced me had been a teacher in my school and had gone on to get his doctorate and decided that he would accept to to run for the position for 2 years. He said he didn't think he could take it longer than that because of the recalcitrance of the power. So I'll end the story by saying that he stayed. When President Obama was about to leave office, he established an initiative called My Brother's Keeper. And it was an initiative to encourage states to write proposals for state money to supply enrichment and support for African American boys and girls. Dr. Lester Young, who was the regent who took my place on the board, wrote a proposal, took many years, and got $200 million from the state for the program that's called My Brother and My Sister's Keeper. The only state that has written a proposal to get state funds to implement that. Until today, the only state that has done that. Now on May 6th, there's going to be a celebration, and I wanted to tell you about it, Paul. In Albany, when the first group of black boys and girls who competed for funds coming out of that My Brother's Keeper will be in Albany with their parents. They are going to name the fund the Adelaide Sanford Fund.
Oh.
And I am so grateful.
Are you going to be there?
I'm hoping to be able to.
Well, I have to try and work. We have to try and work it out so I can come.
So, and then later in May, the Adelaide Sanford Institute, which is a separate group organized by some of my former teachers and principals, will have their regular gala when there will be further announcement. But what's important about it is that in spite of the obstacles, it is the persistence, it is the continuity of inspired leadership that we tell our children. You may not know what your future will be. You may not see anything but obstacles. But if you are faithful to the cause and believe in yourself out there, things may be happening that you don't know about. These children did not know when they went to kindergarten that this opportunity would present itself to them. If they only heard the negatives, they wouldn't believe in the possibilities of the future. So I'm grateful to have lived to see this happen. I hope to be able to go to Albany for the event to meet these children and their parents and to see the launching of this effort, which is statewide. It's not citywide, it's statewide. And as far as I know, the last I heard, New York State is the only state that has used just those words from the president. He didn't give them any money. It's not federal money, it's state money. But that's my story. It doesn't end there, because it will live in these children who will accept this first award. And it will live in those who hear about it, because now many people don't even know about it, and will be inspired to continue the struggle.
You know, whenever I see you, I'm getting a little teary-eyed right now, because you've always had that effect on me. You know, being a country boy from Augusta, Georgia, and you know, having the privilege for all of these years just to sit at your feet, so to speak. It's been one of the most significant things in my life, and I thank you for that. And I would hope that, you know, in some small way, that I can pass on your strength, your courage, and your beauty to some of the young people that I come in contact with.
You will, and you are.
Well, I thank you for saying that. I know we have to go, because I've kept you for a while. But could I just ask you one other question? We were talking earlier about the difficulties that our people still encounter in 2019. And these differences and these challenges are not unlike the challenges that confronted you and our people, and that have always confronted us. What would you say to some of us who oftentimes become discouraged? What would you say to young people that hopefully will have a chance to see this brief episode that we're sharing today?
First, I would tell them that I love them, that they are precious, that they're extraordinary, that they're gifted and talented. And tell them that that love goes back for generations. They have been loved since the beginning. We are the first people. We are the parent people of the universe. And I would say that to them. And tell them to take care of their bodies. Bodies are precious. They're a gift that's inexplicable. Take care of your body. Treasure it, because it will function for you as long as you do not violate it. And then I would tell them to know the history. Not just the history of Africa and America, but world history. Because it will help us to know the progression of time and the change that's inevitable. And I would tell them that the one thing that we can teach them is not just facts, but it's the ability to interpret facts, to understand the facts, to be analytical and careful, not reckless, careful and thoughtful, and to tell them by all means the most important thing is to say that they are loved, that they are beloved, that they are special.
Thank you, Dr. Sanford. I really appreciate your allowing me to sit here for these few minutes and just to be in your presence.